So, good evening, everybody, and I welcome you all to this webinar, The Clock is Ticking, New Paradigms in TB Treatment. The title Clock is Ticking was the WHO theme for this World Tuberculosis Day 2021. It clearly indicates that our time is running out. Our time is running out if we have to keep our commitment to end TB by 2025. And that means it requires a lot of concerted action and urgent action on all stakeholders who are involved. So that means that we need to start preventing all the delays in detection, delays in optimum diagnosis, delays in optimum treatment, and delays in management. With that, we will now start with our agenda for the webinar. If you could go to the next slide, please. So I am going to be your moderator for this session. I am Dr. Aparna Bhanushali, the Head of Growth and Scientific Support at Haystack Analytics. And this webinar is a collaborative effort by ThyroCare and Haystack Analytics. ThyroCare has under the brand Focus TB, which emphasizes on affordable and quality TB diagnostics. It's aimed at ensuring quality TB diagnosis within the context of the National Laboratory Strategic Plans. So ThyroCare is taking a lot of effort in this endeavor, in this life-saving mission to end TB. This webinar is also in collaboration with Haystack Analytics. We at Haystacks are responsible for end-to-end genomic support to enable clinical decision making. We believe that genomics it should be available. The power of genomics should be available to everybody, and we want to simplify the complex process of genomics to improve healthcare decisions. Our agenda for the day is we will have a presentation by Dr. Sandeep Bhattacharya, who is our chief guest speaker, a presentation by Dr. Chaitali Nigam, who is our next speaker, followed by a Q&A session. Kindly allow me to introduce our chief guest speaker for the day, Dr. Sandeep Bhattacharya. Dr. Sandeep Bhattacharya is the Managing Director of Oreo Healthcare Consulting. He is a healthcare veteran and was the Chief Innovation and Strategy Officer at Merck. He's also held a Senior Director position with Sanofi Aventis, and he is a PhD in pharmacology from Haffkine Institute. I welcome Dr. Sandeep Bhattacharya, and he will be our main speaker for the day, who will be speaking on the clock is ticking, new paradigms in TB treatment. Our next speaker is Dr. Chaitali Nikam. Dr. Chaitali leads the infectious disease portfolio at ThyroCare Labs. She is a member of the Constitution of National Technical Working Group on Private Provider Engagement under the NACP. She's also the member of the National Technical Working Group on collaboration between NTEP and corporate hospitals and laboratories, and has 38 publications till date in peer-reviewed journals. So I welcome both our speakers for the day. We will have a Q&A and an interactive session at the end of the talk by both our speakers. We request you that you could either put your questions in the chat box or raise your hand. Okay? And with this, I kindly ask Dr. Sandeep Bhattacharya to please start.
Aparna said that the clock is ticking because we have committed to eliminate TB by 2025. But there is a much deeper and more sinister clock which is ticking. And I want to focus a little bit about that. After many years, in fact, after the discovery of rifampicin, we have now again 2 new drugs which have been discovered for the treatment of tuberculosis. It is only a matter of time before these drugs also become resistant. It is that clock which I weigh and which requires us to rethink the paradigms we have in TB treatment. In order to understand the paradigms, I want to see, I will not go into the basics of this whole thing, but I would rather focus on what are the barriers that exist in our current treatment paradigm and how we should overcome those barriers. So, can you see my slide now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, inappropriate treatment and poor patient adherence are the key barriers to treatment success. This is a very complex issue, and I will take this sort of one by one. So if you look at what is the dynamics of patient flow in this country, we see that from the general population, we move into a pool of TB patients in this country. These occur as new cases through fresh infection or fresh detection, or they occur through reactivation of patients who were considered cured. This pool of patients, about 80% of them get cured, but 20% which are either failed or relapsed treatment remain outside scope. Of these are taken for retreatment. However, a large portion of these are lost to follow-up. And a good portion, almost half of these patients who do not respond to treatment actually succumb to the illness. And if we see how this thing works, in drug-sensitive patients, our success rate is over 80%. But as there is increasing resistance, we find death rates go up. We find more and more patients are lost to follow-up. So when these patients are lost to follow-up, they are carrying resistant bacilli. And we know that whereas in sensitive patients, one patient could potentially infect another 1.8 patients, this increases to 2.6 when we are looking at patients with resistant bacilli. So the rate at which the disease spreads is much higher when it comes to resistant patients as compared to the drug sensitive cases. What causes this kind of a situation? I'm referring this to Professor Arunabha Datta Chaudhary from the Journal of Clinical Pathology. He says, lack of compliance, of course, is a major cause of failure of treatment. However, inappropriate treatment with drugs to which the bacilli are not susceptible is the key cause of treatment failure. Clinician is guessing about the resistance pattern based on rifampicin and sometimes INH resistance when the fallback drug quinolones has in many centers over 60% resistance. So with this kind of a scenario, it becomes very difficult for somebody to judge what exactly should be the regimen to be given to these patients. And why is it that we cannot check and find out what is the resistance pattern? It is because in an individual patient, to find out the exact resistance pattern of the bacilli till today required a lot of expense and a lot of time. And consequently, the India TB report 2020 says the National TB Elimination Program misses 10% of drug-sensitive cases and 50% of drug-resistant cases. This is the clock that is ticking, ladies and gentlemen. So all of this put together causes a scenario which results in significant increase in the number of cases with resistant tuberculosis. And what are these numbers of cases that we are looking at? 1 in every 4 patients of TB in the world are in India. On a population basis, this may not be much higher than, for example, in Indonesia or Pakistan, but it is definitely much higher than in countries like China or Bangladesh. But the real problem is not how many cases there are. The real problem is the WHO estimates that only 2 out of 3 patients with MDR TB or multi-drug resistant TB get diagnosed. 1 out of 3 remain undiagnosed. Of those 2 who are diagnosed, 3 out of 4 who are diagnosed are treated. And only 1 out of, so if you multiply this out, you will see that 75% of the incident cases remaining in the community are lost to follow-up or they succumb to their illness. This is the estimate of the WHO. When we look at the number of cases in this country, I have put up a number here of 45 lakh cases with 4,50,000 deaths. The government figures say that there are 27 lakh patients who have tuberculosis, of which 20 lakhs approximately are in the public sector and about 7 lakhs are in the private sector. But what I did was to understand the private sector numbers, I back calculated from the consumption of rifampicin and its fixed dose combinations across the country. And I found that approximately 2.5 million cases are treated annually in this country in the private sector, of which only 7 lakhs are notified to the government. Every one of us who are treating TB patients, we know that because of the taboo and the social stigma associated with the disease, many patients refuse to get notified and would rather take their treatment privately without informing anybody else. Reflected in the significantly larger consumption of rifampicin and its fixed dose combinations, so that we realize that we are actually dealing with 45 lakh patients with a 10% mortality or 4,50,000 deaths. Now, clearly, the India TB report says early and accurate diagnosis followed by appropriate treatment is vital for ending TB, because we have understood that with this kind of a large population of TB patients, if we are unable to actually end the TB in that particular patient, this patient is going to get back into the community and spread that infection further. As many as 20% of treated patients do not get the desired outcomes. And at a significant higher transmission rate, these treatment failures spread resistant infections, so that in the general population, a person who is getting tuberculosis may get the tuberculosis with a drug-resistant bacillus, which makes it extremely difficult to manage. And already we see that approximately 5 to 6% of people in our country, of the TB patients in our country, in the general population, have MDR tuberculosis. The other problem that we face is about mixed infections. And this is especially a concern in HIV co-infected patients and in other immunocompromised patients. And I will deal with only HIV and diabetes. Now, what happens is recurrence of TB occurs in three forms. One is when the numbers go down below detection limits, treatment is stopped, the bacilli grow again, and there is reactivation of the tuberculosis. The second is when there is reinfection, where one strain is cured, but a second strain infects the patient simply because these people live in communities in which there is a sizable degree of airborne tuberculosis infection in the community. And the third, which is the one I want to really focus on, is that the patient is already having two or more strains in his sputum. But our current methods of detecting tuberculosis does not allow us to identify different strains. And because of that reason, if the patient is immunocompromised, like with HIV or with diabetes, we see that the recurrence rate is more than 100-fold higher than in the general incidence. And TB recurrence is almost twice as high, both in HIV patients as well as in diabetes patients, with an odds ratio of 2.1 in one case and 1.96 in the other case. Consequently, the failure to detect a non-replicating organism influences the probability of diagnosing mixed strain infections. Our current methods of diagnosis do not allow us to detect mixed strains, and therefore in patients who are immune compromised in some form, these things supervene, and therefore we get a recurrence of the tuberculosis in these patients. We come to patient adherence, a major barrier to treatment success. But we must understand the drivers of adherence. One, we have done through Aureacs and my previous life, we have done studies across more than 46 countries of the world on the drivers of adherence. And we have found that forgetfulness is not a driver of poor adherence. A person who is supposed to take some medicines regularly may forget once to take that medicine, or may forget it. So he's supposed to take it in the morning, he takes it in the evening. But he or she does not sustainably forget to take the medicine. Poor adherence is a conscious and to the patient a rational choice made. This patient is not forgetting, and therefore sending SMS reminders actually has very little impact on the adherence of these patients. The drivers of adherence that we have seen are what I call the 3 C's. The first C is cost. Economic cost versus lifestyle cost. In tuberculosis, for those who cannot afford, TB treatment is free. So it is not an economic cost, but there is a lifestyle cost because one has to change one's lifestyle. And in situations of poverty or substance abuse, these lifestyle changes are often very difficult to perform by these patients. The second is a concern that am I getting the right treatment? Concern for lack of efficacy because symptoms are continuing. Concern for side effects. Somebody gets nausea, vomiting as a consequence of one of the drugs, maybe pyrazinamide or ethambutol, and thus making the quality of life of this patient poor. And because of this reason, this patient, or he gets joint pains because of elevated uric acid, and all of these result in the patient saying, look, I don't think I want to continue with this treatment anymore. And he may not come back to the doctor and tell him, I don't want to continue this treatment. He may simply drop out. The third is there is a fear that there is nothing happening to the core disease. And this often happens because there is a lack of well-being in the initial phase of treatment, that some patients do not feel that well-being that they were anticipating as a consequence of that treatment. And the final C is a commitment to one's health. This is seen lacking in many TB patients, either due to poverty, and the doctor tells them that you must take this food or this medicine or this additional vitamins or this or that, and the person thinks, I'd rather get my child a glass of milk than spend money on this. Additionally, people who are in substance abuse, alcoholism, or drug abuse, such people typically would rather spend money on those kinds of things rather than treat their tuberculosis effectively. What is therefore required, along with very effective treatment, one requires counseling to give the best chance for the adherent patients. And data shows that in the population, there are about 20% of people who will adhere whether you say anything to them or not. There are another 20% of people who will not adhere whether you say anything to them or not. But the 60% of people who do not adhere if you do not say something to them, but adhere if you say something to them, are the ones whom we can, as a medical fraternity, truly influence. And through this mechanism, we should be in a position to significantly enhance treatment. Because of a perfect diagnosis, we will create a scenario that the patient gets a sense of well-being, and because of that, he or she is motivated to continue treatment and thus reach a level of cure. So in other words, there is a medical problem and there is a management problem. The medical problem is that with highly effective drugs, why are we not able to get the right drug to the right patient at the right time? This is because there are many stakeholders in the management of tuberculosis. And each one of those stakeholders views the problem somewhat differently. And none of them probably has the full picture of what it takes in order to get on top of this problem of tuberculosis. So what we have to do, Aparna mentioned it in her introduction, is we have to get the right drug through overcoming a diagnostic delay. That we today go through an iterative process where we test once and then we test again and then we test a third time in order to try and reach exactly what is the resistance pattern of that particular bacillus in that particular patient. This results in a major loss to follow-up, because when one goes through such iterative processes, patients typically drop out of treatment. The second is our inability to look at different subpopulations differently. I don't have data on this, but anecdotal evidence tells me that we do not even differentiate between fresh and retreatment cases. And we need to understand different subpopulations of patients from a disease and a psychosocial perspective. And finally, to be able to get the right drugs fast enough so that the patient doesn't lose heart and is lost to follow-up. So what are the important subpopulations of patients? So if we look at fresh cases versus retreatment patients, but within these RIFA-sensitive population, there are about 5% of patients who show resistance to other drugs, either isoniazid or pyrazinamide or ethambutol. In these cases, general condition of patients determine the urgency of treatment. Then we come to immunocompromised patients who are either HIV positive or diabetic. And we discussed what is the impact of this immune compromised patients, not just the HIV, which may not be such a big problem in this country, but diabetes is a major comorbidity in TB patients. In this kind of a scenario, the high incidence of recurrence due to low level resistance and multiple strains is a major challenge for which we need good diagnostics. Through a line probe assay, get a case which is but low level resistance, where the cells are actually throwing out the INH more rapidly, becomes very difficult, and these can occur even in RIFA sensitive patients, and we need to watch out for that. Then there are fluoroquinolone resistance. In this country, because of the widespread, and I may even call it overuse of fluoroquinolones in general patients for respiratory or urinary tract infections, fluoroquinolone resistance is common in virtually every subpopulation of patients. In situations that each clinician managing tuberculosis faces, that is a RIFA resistant case, because it is the pivotal drug of this regimen, and these require a thorough evaluation of the resistance status, because we may be missing MDR TB or XDR TB, which is resistance to both INH and rifampicin, or XDR, which is resistant to INH and rifampicin and a fluoroquinolone. Now we see about 5 to 10% of MDR TB in fresh cases, or 35 to 45% in retreatment cases. And XDR TB, we see 1 to 3% in fresh cases, 30% in retreatment. Current treatment paradigm, if you see, is a patient comes in, we go through GeneXpert and determine whether the patient is RIFA resistant or RIFA sensitive. If the patient is RIFA sensitive, we start the patient on our first line drugs, EHRZ, HRE. If the patient is resistant, we take him through a line probe assay to see whether is INH sensitive or resistant. If the patient is INH resistant, we request for a culture and drug susceptibility test, where 15 to 16 antibiotics sensitivity profile is done. But whereas GeneXpert gives you the result in a few hours, a line probe assay may take between 1 and 3 days, depending on whether you require first line probe assay or a second line probe assay. Therefore, final answer, if necessary, it comes to us only within 3 to 6 weeks and costs as much as 15,000 rupees. Whole genome sequencing is bringing the accuracy of genomic technology to TB treatment, which is providing resistance or sensitive information for the bacillus for 18 antibiotics. And how does this work? It works that a patient delivers a patient sample, and depending upon severity, if the patient is smear positive 2+ or 3+, one can probably reduce the time of that we need until we can get a good DNA extraction. If the patient is 1+ or less, or a bronchoalveolar lavage fluid or something of that nature, it may need to be enriched before we do a DNA extraction, which takes about 4 to 5 days. From the DNA extraction, depending upon load, it may take 1 to 6 days. And then we go through a sequencing process, the analytics report. What does this mean in terms of turnaround time? It means today a report will come back in 8 to 12 days. But in a few months' time, in 2 to 3 months' time, hopefully this number will come down to 3 to 4 days. In a year's time, possibly even the same day on-site results will be available. And the cost of this test is just rupees 3,000, which is just a margin higher than the GeneXpert tests that one is. This is, as a consequence of this, how do I see the prioritization of patients for whole genome sequencing? I see this as those who have XDR TB, which are RIFA resistant on GeneXpert, INH and fluoroquinone resistant on LPAs. Such patients must necessarily have a whole genome sequence done. MDR TB patients, RIFA resistant on GeneXpert, INH resistant on LPA, because of the background resistance to fluoroquinolones, it would be advisable to take these patients for whole patients on GeneXpert. Would be good if the patient's general condition is poor and therefore there is urgency and need to start correct treatment. If the patient is otherwise healthy, one may even wait a little while. But if the patient is not otherwise healthy, as most are not, a RIFA resistant patient, it may be advisable to get a whole genome sequence done so that one is providing accurate treatment to the patient. And finally, to immunocompromised patients, those who are HIV positive or diabetics, regardless of GeneXpert results, these whole genome sequencing should definitely be done. So with this kind of whole genome sequencing, and you'll hear more about this, I'm sure, from Dr. Chaitali, we should be in a position to bring accuracy. With accuracy of treatment, we will reduce the chances of spreading of infection and thus be able to rapidly eliminate TB from India. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. That was a wonderful talk. Not only have you indicated that, not only is it that the time is clicking or the time is ticking, or but the fact that the alarming statistics that you have put up very clearly indicates that we are sitting on a ticking time bomb. And if we do not take care of all these aspects, then we will never be able to eradicate TB in 2025, 2030, and we need to have a solution which will be able to differentiate all the different buckets of patients which you have indicated and give the optimum treatment. So thank you so much. We will have I now request our next speaker, Dr. Chaitali, to kindly start with her presentation. We'll have the Q&A sessions post her presentation. We'll have the Q&A sessions post that.
So thank you, Dr. Aparna, for passing it on, and thank you, Dr. Sandeep, for such a lovely talk and shedding a light on lots of aspects which is required to know about TB and extensively or MDR TB. So at the end of this session, we can summarize the impact of detection, TAT, affordability for whole genome sequencing of a TB, that is a TGS. So at first place, as I want to tell you is that why it is so important to diagnose the TB and to treat the TB. So the outcome of the TB, MDR TB treatment success and patient survival is totally depending upon the selection of drug. That means what combination of drugs it has been selected, what is the effective drugs for that particular patient, for example, individualized therapy, and the duration of treatment. So efficacy in patients with the drug sensitive TB, that is a standardized regimen, is higher as compared to the patients with the drug resistant strains. So first of all, when we say about the algorithm, which is already there into the RNTCP. So if you can go through when patient indicates, or if it present to the laboratory or to the clinics or at the PHCs, they'll go for a presumptive TB and they'll go for a NAT, that is a CB NAT, where it happens as gene expert test. So basically when it is a gene expert test comes as a susceptible, then there is a only FLLPA that we have performed in the lab. If it is a H register not detected, it goes for the first line treatment. If it comes for a H resistance, then it goes for the second line LPA. And then if any resistant when detect along with the INH like fluoroquinolones and aminoglycoside, like Dr. Sandeep has already touched base upon this, so I'm not going into the details of the drugs, but then it goes for the culture DST. That means here involvement of a culture happens and which extensively delays the turnaround time. If at the CBNAT site only, if patient is resistant for rifampicin, that is the most effective drug for TB, then it goes for the first and second line simultaneously. If anything come resistant on SLLPA, then it goes for the DST. So again, if you can check here, again it goes for the culture, and which is the indication that patient is have to go for a culture, which will again increase the turnaround time. So if you can see here into the dollar and into the stars which has been depicted, so it is indicated that the culture isolate to be subjected to the LPA for smear negative specimens. So in all this scenario, you can go for all genotypic test only when the smear status of the particular patient is positive. Then and then only you should go for a first or second line LPA. For CBNAT, it is not required. And asterisk has been given for the drugs wherever available. So there are few drugs which are not available at each IRL centers or each laboratory where we are receiving the samples. For example, linezolide or delaminide, bedaquiline, there are few newer drugs for which GST has not started at IRL. So at some points in NRL, this GST has been validated and started. So this is about the diagnostic cases when patient is firstly coming to the PHC. If he is a non-responder, then it comes as a follow-up patient. And if his culture has been checked as it's a gold standard, as only viable organisms will be growing the culture. And that's the reason follow-up cultures comes after the 3 or 6 months of gap if he is non-responding to the treatment which has been given as a standardized regimen as per RNTCP or NTP algorithm. So moving ahead, we'll just go to one by one diagnostic test which is happening. So at the right now, the current part to diagnose treatment as CBNAT, which I told you just, so it's about near to point of care testing. So where we have to just fill the patient sample into some buffer, wait for 15 minutes, put it into the instrument, and you'll get the result in 1 hour 50 minutes to be precise. Here you'll get the information only about one drug. Turnaround time for one patient sample is 2 hours. Hands-on time is as less as 15 minutes. And you'll get the result in very simpler way that you did not require any expertise to read the result. So this is happen on the first day. Sample comes to laboratories of IRL or intermediate laboratories where we check for the first line LPA. It takes 3 to 4 days. That is turnaround time of all these labs is around 2 batches per week. And here again, we are wasting 3 to 4 days for first line and second line LPA. If it didn't work out or if it is a resistant here, then it goes to the culture DST where culture takes 3 weeks to 6 weeks to grow. If smear status is positive, it grows rapidly, but it again takes 1 week to go for a DST. So once from presentation of a day 1 to the clinic, till he get the final result, there's already 2 months of a delay or more than that, which we can see. And the mean duration of the treatment initiation in TB care takes an average of 65 days, which says in some of the references for a new and treatment cases. So shortening this time to diagnose can help to put the patient on the right treatment path early, which is the need of an hour, that patients who is coming here have to get his treatment to be started on early basis. So when it comes to the error rates of the DST, so this is a publication by Nikolovsky in PLOS One, and this is the study from IRL labs across in European countries. So what they found is that, so if you can see this red color line is indicative of phenotypic DST. This green color line is indicative of a DST on crude extract using molecular tubes, and blue line indicates the DST on culture using molecular tubes. So if you can say the error rates varied substantially between drugs. So drugs are mentioned on this axis and error rate is in percentage mentioned in y-axis. So it has been observed that error rates varied substantially between drugs. For example, PZA was found to be highly error prone, followed by amikacin, ethambutol, and streptomycin. Whereas the proportion of incorrect result on another hand for second line drugs, for example, fluoroquinolones, kanamycin was lower and similar to that of the rifampicin and INH. It shows that the scope for improvement in all technologies for few drugs is essential. So when we says about the phenotypic DST, which is a gold standard, there are few drugs which says really a higher error rate as compared to genotypic methods. So also there are few technical challenges in traditional DST when we do it, because it requires standardization of procedure in particular lab where it is happening, and it's still difficult to set up the correct performance of DST requirement to understanding of several steps. The steps includes antimicrobial activity of the incorporated drug, interpretation of a result and data reporting, and stability of the drugs which we are using to put DST. So for this PMDT guidelines has already given in this March 2021 guidelines, it has been clearly indicated that the NGS has the great potential for rapidly diagnosing drug-resistant TB, MDR-TB in diverse clinical reference laboratory settings, and the NGS approach overcome many of the significant challenges which are associated with conventional phenotypic testing, as well as the limitation of other less comprehensive molecular tests by providing rapid detailed sequence information for the multiple gene regions or whole genomes of the interest. What does this mean is, so as already we have discussed, GeneXpert gives us drug resistance only for one drugs, whereas line probe assay gives us drug resistance for the group of antibiotic on line probe assay, and based on that we need to check for the drug resistance for particular drug. So by taking this in mind consideration, we at ThyroCare launched TGS, that is TB whole genome sequencing, and with the haystack. So ThyroCare is founded 25 years back with the focus of quality, speed, affordability, and with the same goal, we have started Focus TB, the brand which is focused only and specific for TB diagnostics. And with Haystack, we have launched this test called as TGS, that is TB whole genome sequencing. So when we say about this comprehensive nature of the test, so you can see the difference over here in this table. So if you can see for CBNAT, one antibiotic gives you result to the patients in 24 hours. With line probe assay, it gives the result to the patient in 4 to 5 days. With culture DST, as there is a high TAT to grow the culture, which takes 3 to 6 weeks. And as I've indicated already, there are few drugs which are still not available in each of the labs. So it gives the antibiotic susceptibility testing for 12 to 14 antibiotics only. Whereas TGS gives you 18 antibiotic coverage, which are recently incorporated into the diagnostic algorithm by NTEP, including Gusdex also, it is coming around 18 antibiotic. Turnaround time, we have chosen to be at 12 days. We are thinking of lowering down it more by incorporating automation into the system. And with culture DST CBNAT or LPA, we are not getting any other information regarding strain identification, mixed infection or co-infection. But with the help of TGS, we are getting information about these two aspects too. So there's a need of whole genome sequencing, which rapidly shows the exactly affecting TB, including its complete drug resistant profile, and thus allow clinicians to identify the best treatment regimen to combat the disease. And also implementation of whole genome sequencing will benefit the NTP providing data for surveillance of resistance to different anti-TB drugs and important information for high burden countries to set TB control strategies and priorities. Besides this, we can also understand the transmission rate and the transmission model with the help of TGS. So TGS is the technology which is based on the whole genome sequencing. So basically in sample is collected, culture is enriched for 5 days, then DNA is get extracted from the culture which has been already enriched. Then it is going for pre-sequencing preparation, which we called it as a laboratory preparation. Here it goes for the sequencing. You'll get the data which is unaltered and report is generated automatically. Besides that, we have designed the report format, which is as easy as CBNAT to read to the doctor as well as for the patients. So red drugs which are in red color, those indicates the mutation conferring drug resistance detected, and the green color shows the mutation conferring drug resistance not detected. So any patient or any doctor who is not unable to understand the hi-fi reports can understood this presentation clearly. And this is the paradigm shift in the genomic reporting, which we had did it first time. Also on the first paper, we'll give you the complete antimicrobial AST profiling drug-wise, whether presence of drug resistance of mutation detected or not detected, which is again easy to understand. Beside this, we are giving in clinical recommendation whether there is any mixed infection or other NTM or MOT if it is identified over here. Also, it gives you the strain identification and MTB identified at what number of % of read it has given the results. So each and every step which comes from the instrument, it is a highly tight data which is unalterable, and it's in very simple form which anyone can understood the report. So with this, with the launch which we have at 3,000 rupees, which is very, very reasonable if you compare with the rates of NTP, other tests with less number or amount of antibiotics. It is fully automated plug and play system for the automation, and it is a state-of-art genomic reporting in a line with the colored molecular reporting standards. So TGS is designed for scale. So as I told you, like in my previous slide, that we are looking for the lab automation in the matter of DNA extraction with the help of liquid handle systems, where we can again save our time, and we can standardize the procedure and protocol. It is a safer to handle because the people who are working inside the laboratory, it is very safe to handle to work on the DNA as compared to live culture. And also it originates the digital data, and with the LIS or LIMS software, we can automatically feed the data in Nikshay order portal. So manual entry into Nikshay or portal can be automated with this. And also there is a data driven public health monitoring treatment and supply planning opportunity can be given. So with automation and safety as an outcome for the lab and digital nature of the WGS process, TG is designed to scale at the max the 1,000 tests per day. So at the end, in the nutshell, we can say that TGS can provide greater resolution than conventional or genotyping method for investigating recent TB transmission or drug resistance. It's also one-stop source of curated genotype and related metadata from MTB strains. And we are transitioning using TGS as a standard method of TB diagnostics, which gives antibiogram of 18 drugs within 12 days and at affordable cost. We at Focus TB are already aligned with all the certification which required for in NTP algorithm, that is ISO, NABL and CAP. Besides NTP, 4 certificate, that is first line LPA, second line LPA and all culture DSTs. Thank you.